What up, everybody? How's everybody doing today? As always, if you do not know who I am, my name is RJ. Today, we are going to be covering the four bases of supernatural power. And this is one of my favorite teachings. And you can apply this to every aspect of your life. As people come in, I'll go through different concepts, different ideas when it comes to, the four bases of supernatural power. And we It's different types of psychology you can use when we're looking at these teachings, and you can apply it to literally every aspect of your life. What up, Ashley? What up, Benna, Gwen, Kid Stone? How are you all doing today? What up, Say? Baby Kiss, greetings, welcome. Um, so, like I said, we're covering the four bases of supernatural power. And, this concept, this idea, you can apply it to every aspect of your life. And it means something different in how you apply it on every single level, no matter where you're at, right? Um, so I kind of want to cover this, and we'll even do the energy exercise in relation to the four bases of power. This teaching is also called the four foundations in Buddhism. It's also called the quadrupolar magnet in Hermetics, and it's also called the four pillars of King Solomon's Temple. Um, and the four pillars and quadrupolar magnet aspect, I relate that more to tapping into the Akasha and Wuji in Hermetics than anything else on the lower levels. It's more so the four foundations in Buddhism. But we'll kind of cover this. And if you guys have any questions or comments or anything in relation to it, feel free and ask. So you all know that I always talk about the elements and understanding the elements and your relationship to the elements. So when we look at the four foundations or the four bases of supernatural power, isn't it the Philosopher's Stone too? Yes, it's exactly what it is. It's the Stone. The Philosopher's Stone, in my experience, is a more refined aspect. So you're building the pillars, you're building the bases, you're building the foundation. And once you raise up the vibrational scale through that foundation, then that's when you can access and learn to work with the Philosopher's Stone. But it's very, very beautiful. It's very, very beautiful to understand the psychology through direct practice and understanding and how to take advantage of it. And this is why we're having this conversation, right? So we're looking at the different parts of the mind. Remember that, spiritual growth, spiritual knowledge is a product of the mind, the product of the spirit. All of it is. Yoga is the science of the mind. How do you develop the mind so it becomes in union? That's what yoga means, union with infinite intelligence. You're coming into union with your divinity. And it's the science of it. How do you do that, right? So the four pillars of King Solomon's Temple, the four bases of supernatural power, is a type of psychology to set the foundation for that. So we have these four pillars of our mind. And we have in relation to the elements, we have the air pillar, which is discernment. It's this a discerning aspect of the mind, the part of your mind that pays attention to what it is and is able to discern. This would be equivalent to the Shakti in the Hindu religion, as opposed to Shiva. Shakti is awareness of light, the discerning aspect of the mind. And there's different parts of the discerning mind. Then we have the fire pillar, right? The four bases of power. And the fire pillar is more so your willpower, the intending aspect of the mind, the part of your mind that intends, the part that actually puts out the signals and does the work. That's your intending mind. The water pillar is the part of you that is the clairsentient aspect of your mind, the part of you that feels and observes more so than the discerning aspect, but it observes and feels and gives you sensory input. Now, these are three different aspects of your mind, and they all do a particular job. And in order to cultivate the Philosopher's Stone, or the four bases of power, um, you have to be able to identify each one. You have to be able to separate layers. So the primary goal is to get to the point where you can allow the different layers of consciousness to do what they need to do, where you raise your mind into the observing mind, right? and then you allow the four pillars to literally do what they do. The earth element is the cohesive aspect. It's the condensing aspect of your mind that brings things together. You can kind of think about how, you know, reality manifests as a whole, right? Where literally air is discernment. It moves energy, right? The water is it rests upon the earth, right? It condenses. It allows you to feel, right? We have water within our being. The fire element is that willpower. You know, it's the intention, it's the yang aspect. And then if it wasn't for the earth, none of these attributes would be able to come into form. So the earth pillar is more so balancing out the air, the fire, and the water in order for you to stay in equanimity and allow the philosopher's stone to be active. Um, like I said, this means something on every single level. And then Grand Rising to Loriness, and then Live a Life. You know, so how do we identify this? How do we make sense of this teaching? And this is a teaching from Shakyamuni Buddha, directly from the Buddha, and even all the Western, you know, occult mystery schools and traditions and stuff like that have taken this from Shakyamuni Buddha. You know, Western mysticism is deeply rooted in Eastern mysticism, you know, and a lot of the concepts and ideas and the way that they use it, it originates from that, and just vocalized, and you know, the terminology that we use is slightly different, you know. So in order to do this, you know, the first thing, you have to get separation of consciousness. You have to develop the mind so you can separate the layers. You have to be able to observe something without attaching to it. And as always, you know, this is the first practice that we do in Hermetics. The first meditation that we do in Hermetics is literally, you know, you're doing your meditation, and it's actually an advanced meditation, right? So you get into the point where you just observe your thought forms. And everybody, we'll do this for a second. All right, so just sit quietly, and we'll do this for about a minute. And if you have a notebook, fine, you know, that's even better. If you just have your phone, cool, you can whip out your notes or whatever. Not trying to get you away from my live stream, but you know, whatever you have around you. So we're just going to take a minute, and what I want you to do is just sit quietly and observe your mental space. You know, you want to create more separation between the observer and the observed. So you're going to pay a very, very high level of concentration and awareness and observation of thought forms and anything that appears into your mental space. Pay very, very close attention. Mentally note anything that grabs your attention and robs you of it. If you become sensitive to a thought form, you know, pay attention to the touch moment of the thought form. Pay attention to, you know, if you can feel when your mind begins to meld with the thought form and become one with it and begins to build a story. You know, if you become even more sensitive to it beyond that, okay, then what's the frequency of the thought form? Can you feel the coarseness, the density of it? Is it electric? Is it magnetic? You know, and what was it about that thought form that robbed your concentration? So we're gonna take a minute and then just sit. And as we're doing this together, I promise you, you'll probably be a lot more aware than if you were just doing this by yourself, because the collective power and intention of the group, tied through Akashically through this live stream, will give you a lot deeper levels of awareness as we do this. And we'll do this a couple times, okay? So we'll just take a minute, sit, and you're basically just not allowed to touch anything. Just quietly observe and really get to know your own mental landscape. And we're separating the layers of consciousness. So you're separating the observer from what it is that you're observing to put more space in between it. So just sit quietly and just observe. right, that should be enough. All right, so from here, what did you notice? What are any, like I say, any particular things that you end up mentally noting? What crossed your mind? If any thoughts did intrude on your ability to concentrate, what was it about that thought? Was it a strong emotional attachment? All right. Did it present itself in any particular way? Was it some type of geometry that you associated with it? Could you feel the point in which your mind touched it? And write it down, journal it. I observed this, right? So one of the most powerful things about this basic but advanced level of meditation is that a few things start to happen. One, you become more and more aware. By doing this, 2 minutes of meditation, 2 minutes of journaling aspect, you're telling your subconscious that I want more of this information. So the more you pay attention to it and then use this law of rhythm to go into meditation, then the journal, go into meditation, then the journal, you'll start getting deeper and deeper levels of information on what it is that you're observing. And it becomes very, very powerful. So you're putting more space in between the observer and what it is that you're observing and getting more data and information from that. Right now, we're starting with the thought forms. All right, we're starting with the thought forms. If you continue this practice and make this practice an everyday habit, it will continue and branch out into every other aspect of your life. Your ability to observe something and not attach to it in order for it to build a karmic stream within your emotional body and your physical actions, it expands greatly to a very, very high degree. All right, so super duper powerful. So we're going to sit again. We'll take another minute, right? Take another minute, and once again, observe the mental landscape, and basically you're just not allowed to touch anything. And I want you to use all of your mental strength when you're doing this. 100% of your mental strength and awareness to sit quietly, stay concentrated, and just don't touch anything and just observe. Mentally note anything that crosses your awareness. Pay close attention. If your mind does get caught up in a thought, pay close attention to what was the thought. What was it about the thought? What's my attachment to the thought? All right. And any other qualities that cross your mind, just mentally note it and then write it down afterwards. So we're going to do this again. So let's begin. All right. So take a second, pull out your notebook, and document what crossed your mind. What did you observe? This time, as opposed to the first time, were you more sensitive to the mental landscape? Could you feel the accumulated stillness from the level of concentration and observation that you're developing? Because literally you should be a little more aware than you were the first time. And every time you do this, you should be more and more aware. You're putting more space between the observer and what you're observing. You're developing stillness, right? And you can think about how this affects your overall reality, right? If you're sitting here and you're using 100% of your mental power, 100% of your mental capacity to be concentrated and to just observe, so nothing else is penetrating your mind, and something as simple as a thought form, something that has no physical form, something that's just floating through the ether, can rob you of 100% of your concentration, right? Think about how powerful that is. Think about how that affects your everyday reality as you're navigating through life, right? It's a lot deeper than what people would like to admit or even realize. Now think about all the different data and information that you experience as you're just traversing through your life, and how having no mental power, mental strength, and ability to stop that information from intruding into your consciousness, how it affects you. It says God / devil, supernatural entity or energy vibrating at various frequencies. That's an interesting, type of psychology to engage with it. When it comes to that, that's a level of, that's like the lower astral levels that we're looking at when it comes to that dualistic aspect. For me, I don't really dwell in those realms for many reasons. But when we're working in the mental realm, we're going more towards non-dual light. We're developing, our spirit. Your mind and your spirit, essentially the same thing. The essence of your spirit, right? The part of you that observes, the observing mind. The empty space under the observer is literally God. Is a vibrational match to God. It's the essence of who and what you are. And there's no other opposing force. Everything else that is in your entire reality is a reflection of you and the things that you subscribe to, and the belief structures and stuff that you allow to impose on that God essence that is you. Everything. This is how we experience reality. But in this beginning meditation, remember, we're developing the ability to become more aware of that. To become more aware of the things that are, my phone's doing weird stuff, to become more aware of the things that we observe. So this ability to develop this, once again, it puts more space in between the observer and what you're observing, starting with the thought forms, right? And then from there, it branches out into everything else you pay attention to. If somebody's angry and yelling at you, right? People who have a weak mind will literally get angry. That touch moment, when a thought form touches your mind and begins to meld with it, it literally branches down and gives you urges to act upon that feeling. Those urges turn into actual action, and then that action becomes a repeated action and becomes a part of who and what you are. It becomes a habit, a subconscious habit, if you begin to act upon it. This is how the universe creates. From the mental into the astral into physical action, and the physical action becomes repeated action. It becomes a part of who and what you are, right? So being able to get a level of separation, you can stop that karmic stream, all right? You're developing this air pillar of King Solomon's Temple, the air pillar of the mind, the air pillar when it comes to the 4 bases of supernatural power. You have to, this is necessary for you to be able to do that. You have to develop a high level of discernment and separation from it. Normal people do not have this. Normal people, they live everyday life. Now, there's some people that have it naturally, and it's just a part of who they are. Most people don't have it. Most people will encounter something. This is how the news works. This is how public relations and marketing works or whatever. And, it'll evoke an emotion. Remember the thought forms that rob you of 100% of your concentration. Most of them, they just have a slight little emotional charge to it. And it can rob you of everything if your mind is not strong enough to observe it and not attach to it, right? So this is how it works, and this is what we're developing. And belief structures, everything like that, debates, politics, all this other weird stuff from society and from religion and from our culture and everything else, this branches out into every other aspect of your life, and developing that air pillar of King Solomon's Temple, or the Philosopher's Stone, right? The 4 bases of supernatural power. It's very, very, very important, It says, religion is generally an organized approach to practice uniform, like spiritual beliefs in and respect for a supernatural power or powers, which is regarded as a creator or a governing framework of the universe, and is supported by personal, institutionalized systems grounded in belief and worship. They're just astral things. It's like everything else that's astral. It's science is a religion. There's people that make science their religion, and science their God, and most of these people are people that don't really understand science. But that's a dualistic thing. All the literal religions and things like that, they're all astral things, or astral organizations, built upon duality. The more universal systems and things like that. They're not really religions. But people who live in the dualistic realms will look at them and say, oh, that's a religion, because they don't really understand it. And everything that they've been taught throughout their life is, be afraid of that, put the blinders on, that's evil, and it's demons and all types of weird stuff like that, But it's because they're looking at it from a dualistic viewpoint. The universal systems out there, they're teaching you about yourself. But how could you fully understand yourself without symbology, without, the deification or, concepts and ideas to get you to wrap your head around different aspects of the one? That's what deities are. If you look at Hinduism, if you look at Buddhism, none of the Buddhas or Bodhisattvas none of them are God. Literally, none of them are considered God. There are different aspects, and different mantric and tantric energies in which you can tune your mind to, so you can experience a higher level of the totality of what you are. There are different, platforms in which you can stand on to look at the universe in a different way, so you can raise up that vibrational scale. But it's all you. 100% of it is you, and it's up to you to decide what you're going to stick to. When you develop this air pillar of King Solomon's Temple, or the 4 bases of power, you gain a higher capacity to be able to look at data, to look at information, to look at spiritual systems, religious systems, scientific systems, and understand it from a much higher level from where you're at. And this is just part of your mind, but you have to have a clean separation between each of the layers of consciousness, so each layer can function on its own. Every part of you understands how creation functions perfectly fine outside of your intellect. And I mean that. The air pillar of King Solomon's Temple, that discerning mind, the part of your spirit, it is connected to all that is. Life force, from vital, astral, mental, through Akasha, through the different non-dual light layers, through all that is. It's what keeps you alive. Every single part of it. So outside of your intellect, every single part of your being understands how it functions perfectly. So when we're doing these meditations and when we're cultivating the 4 pillars of King Solomon's Temple, or the 4 bases of supernatural power, we're learning how to discern each one of the pillars, how to observe it, how to separate the layers from the observer and what we're observing, and how to allow each one of those layers to function on its own. And this is where the training comes in. And this is where all the aha moments and epiphanies and the higher spiritual understandings begin to come in, because this is what you're developing. This is the goal. This is the philosopher's stone, your ability to do that and to train this aspect. But the air pillar is very, very important, because air regulates your knowledge, wisdom, insight, your intuition, your understanding. And the more you can separate the layers of consciousness, you're building this foundation, right? The 4 pillars of King Solomon's Temple, right? So you have greater access to infinite knowledge, to the philosopher's stone, to infinite intelligence, to God, the God self, the essence of who and what you are, and like I said, the air pillar most definitely has to be developed, and people with graduate degrees that have a very weird air pillar and can be some of the most ignorant people ever. And I promise you that, there's different types of intelligence, there's different types of awareness, there's different types of IQ, and just because you have a title or a paper or anything like that, it doesn't mean that, your air is imbalanced. It doesn't mean that, the air pillar is where it needs to be, So very important that you're able to use that discerning mind and to see it for what it is. Now, anybody got any questions about this? What up, Natasha? How you doing? So in the class tomorrow, we're going to go deeper in this, and we'll do the energy exercise and stuff, and then raise up the layers, and then create more separation, so everybody can understand these teachings on a much deeper level. Because when we go into it, when we're working through the vital and astral layers, you gain a greater level of sensitivity and a greater level of separation. And remember, the philosopher's stone is Wu Ji in Taoism. So it's your ability to move through the layers of consciousness through equanimity, and like I said, to allow the other pillars of the mind to function and do its job. You know, it's equivalent to seeing an elite athlete just going into the zone, and they don't even have to think about what they're doing. You know, and it's very, very, you know, very powerful, very powerful. You know, when we're working with light and akasha, the light in which you're tuning yourself into, and then you're saturating the three bodies with, and the amount of stillness in akasha that you're developing. This is how you access, you know, different frequencies, different levels of skill, different technologies, you know, and the more you ascend and the more you raise up into the non-dual, more cosmic levels of consciousness, you can literally bring new levels of technology into this physical realm, you know, new teachings, new ways of healing, whatever your thing is, you know, and that's the goal, you know, that's the goal. And somebody, that's a bird, that's actually a crow. Yeah, you know, they make all types of noises. You know, it says, it was a moment when Aries said to me, Aqua, that fire without air isn't working and is pain. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's fire cannot exist without air. And if it does, it's going to burn out. And the way that I view it is literally, you know, the negative aspects of fire is, you know, is like fire is rooted in control. You know, the negative aspects of fire is it consumes, it burns stuff down. That's what fire does. You know, but if you can balance that with the air and the water, then, you know, you get this type of expansion. Fire is the expansion aspect of creation. So what do you think about reality surfing? Never heard of it. You know, there's all types of different terminology and stuff like that. You can reality surf and quantum jump and all this other stuff or whatever. This is different concepts and ideas to tune your mind into different frequencies to have different outcomes. You know, are any of them real? Essentially, no. You know, it's just a way to move the subconscious to get a particular effect. Everything in the realms of magic and alchemy is placebo. And this is when we're talking about the four bases of supernatural power. Remember, placebo does not mean that something's not real. It means that it gets the subconscious mind to behave in a particular manner. And when we're working on the four bases of supernatural power, the four pillars of King Solomon's temple, right? You're separating the layers, so your subconscious and the different layers of consciousness can do what they already do to a much higher level without you interfering with it, with your belief structures and programming and everything else. It's literally your ability to raise up through the observing mind and to allow, once again, the air, fire, water, and earth pillars to do their thing. And you basically watch it happen. You allow your spirit to guide you. You know, is subconscious the same as unconscious? Yes. Yes, your subconscious is subconscious. It's below your consciousness. It's the majority of your experience in your life is a subconscious thing. I mean that. It's like an iceberg. The conscious mind is the tip of the iceberg that you see outside of the water. The other 90% of your belief structures and your spiritual, astral attachments and everything else that you hold on to, your core memories and what makes you you, is up under the water. You do not see it. Everything that's on the top is so deeply ingrained into your subconscious that it bubbles up over the surface. You know, and like I said, there's different ways you look at the conscious, the subconscious, and then the superconscious mind. And these, you know, you can kind of relate this to the three bodies too. Conscious mind will be more physical, right? So up to the surface, you see things physically. Everybody has access to that conscious aspect of their mind. Now, how developed it is and how in touch it is with their astral emotions and belief structures and, you know, their limitations, that's you know, that's different between each person. You know, the subconscious stuff, not everybody sees their subconscious stuff or understands it. You know, it's subconscious. You can't see it, you know. Now, the superconscious mind, that's what the Philosopher's Stone is. And your ability to ground your awareness in that. So that aspect of your mind, of your spirit, dominates, you know, your experience, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, right? And your experiences. And these are different aspects of who and what you are. When we're working with the four bases of power, you know, that's what you're accessing. You know, they say the superconscious mind or your divine spark. This is the realm of perfect ideals. And everybody has access to it. Not everybody understands it. You know, and the more you understand it, the more you can see how everything in your experience is created by you, because your ideals, your concepts, your belief structures, everything is rooted within that superconscious mind. Whatever you tune that superconscious aspect of yourself is going to give you a perfect reflection of it, whatever it is. So if you believe that the world is crashing down around you, guess what? That's the station you're tuned into, and that's what you're going to experience. And all the people around you are going to have those same belief structures, because you guys are in the same realm. You are magnetically tied to each other, and karmically, you're going to continue to affirm each other's belief structures, because that's what you're tuned into. It doesn't make it real. The superconscious mind is the realm of perfect ideals. It does not know delusions from truth. It's whatever you tune into. So when we're developing, we're still on the air pillar. When we're developing this air pillar of King Solomon's temple, 4 bases of supernatural power. It's your ability to discern, all right, that air element, your ability to discern and to look at the things that's causing negative, aspects to arise into your experience, and your ability to see karmic streams. It regulates your knowledge, wisdom, insight, understanding, your intuition. These are all different things, but they're all part of the air pillar. Knowledge, wisdom, insight, understanding, intuition. These are all different aspects of the air pillar, and they're all completely different things. You can have a high level of intuition and have no insight or understanding. You can have a high level of intelligence, of book smarts, and be the dumbest person, when it comes to everything else. And I know plenty of people like that. PhDs, lawyers, doctors, or whatever. This is dumb. They know a lot about that. They know nothing else about the world, So, this air pillar and balancing it and allowing that aspect to kind of guide you and to bring things up to the surface is very, very necessary when it comes to, especially the spiritual knowledge. Because remember, spiritual knowledge is a product of the spirit. It is not a product of the intellect. So the intuitive aspect of the air pillar is what allows that intellectual, intuition. You're balancing the intuitive intellect. If you're just drowning in one, you're going to be missing out on a lot of stuff. If you want to go purely intellectual, then you'll never see the formless aspects of life. Everything is physical and science. And if this person didn't tell this, and they're not accredited, then it can't be true. And then you start taking on all these, delusions and stuff that's literally not real. That's projected by, society and things like that from academia and then other things, But if you can balance it, then, like I said, the intuitive intellect is beautiful, because your spirit, when your spirit touches something, right, that air pillar, that air aspect of the spirit, when it touches something, it knows. Consciousness touches consciousness. Oh, boom! It's a knowing. It's an inner knowing. That intuitive aspect begins to go, and then having the intellectual bridge to bridge that information into intellectual functional knowledge is very necessary. You need both, because if you're going purely intuitive, you'll be experiencing all types of things, and it'll kind of make sense, and it'll be like, I can kind of put my finger on it, but you won't have that synapses happening. The neurogenesis will not be able to function within your being. You won't be able to be like, aha, I get it, I know it. And you can kind of look at Einstein theory of relativity. He knew it years and years before he did the math to prove it to everybody else. Intuitively, he knew it. It took him years to do the math. Well, look, I got proof. So imagine not having the intellectual aspect. You're like, I know this, and trying to prove it to somebody else. You can't even prove it to yourself. You're like, oh, I kind of know it. So it's important to be able to look at that and understand that. So I'm not going to say too much on the air pillar, but this is very, very important. Remember, even when it comes to just the air element in general, the lower aspects of the air element is type of intellectual superiority. There's so many people out there that think, oh, I know it all. And they only seek to learn more so they can feel superior over people that may not know as much in a particular topic. And these people literally become the most ignorant people you'll ever see. I promise you that. Because when it comes to the air element, you can look at the currents of air and stuff like that, and they come together and become stronger, and they're just going with the flow. If you have that block and no, I'm going to keep this energy and information for myself, and aha, I'm better than you, then you literally put yourself in a box. And you think you know it all, but because you're closed off and contracted, then you block yourself off from seeing things from different perspectives and being able to see it from a much greater viewpoint. So that's a negative aspect of the air element. So intellectual conceit, intellectual superiority, or negative aspects of that. My favorite type of psychology is I don't know what I don't know. I don't know. Look at everything that you experience with that until you have personally experienced it firsthand and know it to be a truth. Do not take anything on as a truth. That's the error aspect. And it's very important that you develop that habit of verifying every bit of information that you come across, because if not, you're going to start taking on all these things subconsciously. And it's going to manifest through your physical experience if you start taking on a lot of different truths on a subconscious level. Especially if if you watch the news or receive information from one particular source, and you're like, yep, that's true, yep, that's true, yep. After 3-4 times or whatever, your subconscious just takes everything from that data stream, and that's true. And it's going to manifest through your life for that, because whatever you take on the subconscious truth, your subconscious is going to make sure you see it as that. So that air pillar, that discernment, that separation, and being able to see things without any emotional investment or astral belief structure about what it is, allows a greater level of liberation of your spirit and greater level of control over your own karmic stream. So that air pillar is very, very, very important. Very important. So like I said, what do y'all think about this? What's your give me some input on this. Have you experienced this? So while it's a real thing, potence of mind, intellect can turn on. Yeah, for sure. From there we're going to go to we'll go to the fire pillar. Fire pillar is your willpower. That yang aspect. The intending part of your mind, the part of your mind that intends. It says totes my goats. And once again, we're developing this ability to separate the layers. The more you can work with the air pillar, right? Discern, separate, right? Observe, and put more space in between what you're observing. Observe your intending mind. And matter of fact, we'll do this meditation, right? So if you have your notebook with you, once again, just sit still, and remember, we're going to use the air pillar to tap more into the fire pillar, so we become more aware of it. So for this practice, just sit quietly. Tune into your air pillar. Quietly observe. You're not allowed to touch anything. Use all your mental strength. Don't strain your mind. It's more of a relaxed focus of observation. You're not tensing up. And as you observe, just quietly observe which part of your mind does the intending. All right? Just sit quietly and just observe the part of your mind that intends, the part of your mind that moves your hands, the part of your mind that moves your body, right? When those signals are sent from the observing mind to the intending mind, what part of your mind is it that takes action? All right, just quietly observe that. So just sit and quietly observe, don't touch anything. Observe your thoughts as they rise and fall away as you're paying attention to this. You can even move your fingers just a little bit and pay attention to what part of your mind is actually doing that, right? All right, so take a second and journal what you observed. What did you mentally note? Can you pay attention? Can you feel the intending mind? Can you feel the difference between the part of your mind that observes, the air pillar, and the part of your mind that intends? You want to get really, really familiar with this because you're separating the layers of consciousness. The more you can develop equanimity, the more you begin to purify your chi, the easier it is for your subconscious to be still and to be quiet and to recognize this and to give you deeper levels of information and input so you can put more separation between the layers. Very, very important that you're able to do that. It's very important you're able to do that. Now, one of the beautiful things about going through the process of mastering the elements, right, is you can tune into the fire element and you can increase your willpower. You can increase the intending mind. You can train and develop it and then work on different, different aspects of your personality and skills that you want to develop, especially going through this level of separation. Because remember, we're developing the Philosopher's Stone. This is the quadrupolar magnet, the four-pole magnet, air, fire, water, earth. In the middle, we have Akasha. And if you balance out each one directly, then you have access to Akasha, or Wuji. That's the Philosopher's Stone. It's to be able to balance the four elements and to understand the psychology and how to separate the layers between your air, fire, water, and earth pillars so you have direct access to the essence of your spirit. And you allow the other levels of consciousness to do what they do. Now, the intending mind, this fire pillar, is very, very important because, with each one of the pillars, you have to train it. All right, every single one of the pillars is there, but you have to train it to behave in a particular way. And this is where all the astral training comes into play. But the more you're able to do this, the more magical it becomes. The more magical it becomes. It's a great song too. P.S. I have no idea what you're talking about. I have 4 or 5 bad luck periods in my life. The depths of air aspect has got you through it. Yeah. So, the more you can separate the intending mind and the observing mind, it's very, very powerful. So we're going to mix in the water element with this too, right? We're going to work with the 3 pillars, right? And remember, the water pillar is the attachment. It's literally being able to feel. It's the clairsentient aspect of the mind, the part of your mind that feels. Our water element is built off of our connections and our sensory system. The astral body is a water element thing, the way that we receive information through our sensory system. So it's the clairsentient aspect of the mind, the part that feels. So what I want you to do now in this next couple minute meditation is sit, tune into the air pillar, right? This is the discerning mind. What are you discerning? We're going to discern the intending mind. Okay, we're going to specifically discern our fire pillar, right? So through the fire pillar, what I want you to do is tune into the water, all right, the clairsentient aspect of your mind, and identify what your attachment to the intending part of your mind is. And you can do this just by contemplating it, just by intending, just by literally tuning in, okay, through the water, even just focusing your intent through the water. I'm going to observe what is the clairsentient aspect. What is my attachment to my fire pillar, to my intending mind. And the air pillar will give you deeper levels of information on it. And let's practice this for about a minute or so. And then, like I said, mentally note. You're basically not allowed to touch anything, just mentally note it. And then we're going to journal afterwards. So just sit quietly. Quiet the mind. Use the air aspect of the mind to discern. What are we discerning? We're discerning the intending mind. So air is discerning fire. And the best way to discern it is through your water pillar, right? The part of you that feels the intending mind, right? So you can tune in, right? Feel your connection, right, to your intending mind, and then release that connection. And basically just tune in and allow the intending mind to do what it does. So you might feel urges to move around. You might feel urges to just slightly move your head. You might, remove tension from your body, but literally just tune in and do the most natural thing to you. Quietly observe. Don't focus a specific intention on moving. Just, it's the most natural thing. separating the layers of consciousness. All right, take a second. Once again, write down what you observe. When you were contemplating, all right, using that air pillar and feeling your attachment to your intending mind, what happened? What did you observe? Did you feel the stillness in your mind begin to increase as you begin to contemplate and to pay attention to these different pillars of your mind, the four bases of power, the four pillars of King Solomon's temple? As you begin to do this, you may even felt the need to kind of like you're floating. The mind becomes really, really still, and you kind of feel the urge to move a little bit because you're separating the different layers and allowing the layers to do what they need to do. Now, the earth pillar is condensing, right? It condenses the particular outcome that you're working towards. And this is a basic level teaching. So when we're looking at the earth element in this level, it's more so balancing your air, fire, and water. If you pay too much attention to the air pillar, then you're going to lose the fire and water pillar, and vice versa. So if you can balance your ability to, pay attention to the air pillar, pay attention to the fire pillar, the intending mind, identify the clairsentient aspect of the mind, part of you that feels your attachment to your intending mind, and you can discern that. You have to balance all three of them equally. And this perseverance, your ability to balance them out. And this is what we're practicing. So we're going to do this again. So once again, identify the four pillars of the mind. All right, air, fire, water, earth. All right, your discernment, your intention, your observation, your attachment, and the ability to balance those four aspects. And just sit quietly and just observe it, okay? So from here, write down what you observe. Any other differences in the frequency of your mind? Did you feel the accumulated stillness that you developed through observing and separating the layers? Journal it, write it down. And I'm going to teach you a trick too that can amplify the entire process. So one of the things that I'm a huge proponent for is prayer, but people don't fully understand what prayer is. Prayer is a state of being. It's not a devotional act. Most systems look at it as purely a devotional act, but it's a state of being. It's your quickest doorway into equanimity. It's your quickest doorway in order to tap into your highest level of attunement, and for all the other layers of consciousness below that level of attunement to basically submit to that higher aspect of your spirit, the higher aspect of your mind. It's as if every other layer of your consciousness is like, shh, be quiet, we're in prayer. And the deeper the level of sacredness and reverence, the more you can tune into this level of equanimity. So what I want you to do now, as we're going through, this teaching on the 4 pillars of King Solomon's temple, the 4 bases of supernatural power, is enter into prayer first. Put your hands in the prayer mudra, right in front of your heart center. And the moment you do this, that's, if you're sensitive, a sense of humility comes into your awareness. You're humbling yourself to the higher part of your spirit, and Hermetic, so you don't pray to anything outside of yourself. If God permeates every aspect of creation and all things, then your closest connection is within you. It's the essence of who and what you are, your spirit. So a sense of humility, deepest sense of reverence and sacredness to that higher aspect. As you do this, you may feel everything just become quiet and still. Deepest sense of sacredness, deepest sense of devotion to your spiritual path. And you may even feel, the frequency of your mind begin to raise and hold that state of sacredness and reverence and humility. And then from there, now observe the 4 pillars of King Solomon's temple from that state. 4 pillars of the mind: the observing mind, the intending mind, the clairsentient mind, part of the mind that condenses and brings it all in the form of balancing, the air, fire, and water. Observe it from this state of sacredness and prayer. Mentally note anything that's happening to the frequency of your mind, anything that's happening within your body, the movement of your body. You're not fully intending anything, just observing the different layers of the mind and allowing them to do what they do. Just allow them to do what they do outside of your belief, outside of your control. Just allow the different layers of the mind to function as they should from this deep sense of sacredness. All right, so did you notice any difference that time? From going into prayer and then doing the same practice that you did where you weren't in the sacred space. What was the difference? Could you feel the accumulated stillness from that, in comparison to the last time you did it? Did you get different effects? Did your intending mind start to function more? Right? Did you start to sway a little bit? Could you feel the urges in your body through your water element to, get you to move a particular way? Did you feel any energies moving around you? Right? The frequency of your mind, the stillness of your, different levels of your consciousness begin to change. That's all more of my mind. Yeah. And then it's levels to it. It gets really, really deep. So this type of psychology and understanding the 4 bases of supernatural power, understanding the 4 pillars of King Solomon's temple, this is the groundwork for all the higher levels of alchemy and magic to function. This is where you want to be. And like I said, there's levels to it. There's the physical body mechanics and working with your vitality and things like that. There's the astral aspects when we're purifying our chi and working with our astral body and going through that level. There's the mental aspects, and this is the foundation in order for you to access each layer, to go into equanimity and raise up and down the vibrational scale and operate from whichever layer you would like, and allowing the 4 pillars to stand, so you can stand upon them and allow the spirit to express itself. It's really, really deep, really beautiful. And even when you get into higher levels, like within your meditation, one of the first times I meditated, this is what I did. With no concept or idea of how to truly meditate, it's what I did. Entered into the Akasha, boom, left my body, was standing over the cosmos, talking to God, and healed myself. The next day, I could feel my chi more. Life was more vibrant. Figured out I could heal people with my chi and everything else. With no knowledge of Reiki or energy or anything like that. It woke up a part of my spirit in a really, really deep way. And the ability for you to tune into this philosopher's stone, is built upon understanding this concept and developing to a very, very high degree. And there's tons of ways to develop it. But this is the most quickest and efficient way for you to train your spirit, to develop your spirit senses, and to liberate it. If if you would like to share your experience from this practice, if you have any questions, feel free and ask. This is why I'm here. Was your fascia already developed during that time? It worked out a lot in that time. It wasn't completely developed. Now the fascia development and condensing life force into your fascia, into your skeletal structure, into your bone marrow is what allows the energy to conduct through your physical form on a much deeper level. It allows you to conduct higher levels of metaphysical forces. So when you're tuning into the light of a specific level of consciousness or whatever frequency you're working with, you can conduct it through your entire body by being able to work with it. And soon after I got to this level, I literally started powerlifting every day for a very long time. And some of the most magical things happened after that, because I was able to conduct those forces on a much deeper level than what I could before. So I want everybody to kind of meditate on this and work on this. If you're interested in joining the course and want to learn more how to develop your spirit and your intuition and all that good stuff, check out the link in the bio. That's available for anybody. We still have spots left for our September retreat. If you're interested in that, shoot me a message. There's payment plans, there's coupon codes, and all types of other stuff happening. So if you've been thinking about joining, now is the perfect time for the course. You get year-long access to it. There's hundreds of videos. You get year-long access to the group Zoom meetings and practices that we're doing. Very, very beautiful. If you use the promo code TikTok, it will take like $111 off of it. And that's available for the Master Key Psychic Ascension program. So you get level 1, Mastering the Elements. Level 2 is Psychic Development. And you get the Master Key video library. And then I'll be adding a lot more. I'm going to create a couple different video libraries. So we'll have a section purely on the Qigong practices. All right, we'll have a section that's purely on, I think I might separate in mental, astral, and physical training. So I'm going to make it a lot more easier to navigate for everybody. So I don't think I'm going to take out and go through the videos that are already there. I'm going to make new content and new ways to do it, but I'm going to separate it through each channel. So we'll have one for strictly the Qigong development, and then through mental, astral, physical, and then go through it that way. Also a lot of different types of magic, so it'll be separated through different types of magic to work with and to apply your knowledge and hermetics to those different systems. So what up, Lyric, how are you doing? So if anybody has any questions, if you would like to join, if you'd like to come to Sedona next month from the 12th to the 19th, that's available. And I think that the 888 coupon is still available. So if you're interested, you can check that out too. So I think 888 for the Lionsgate portal, it's like save $888. So if you're interested, now's the time to sign up. Because I think it's going to end sometime today, so it should still be active. Other than that, if anybody has any questions, you want to pick my brain about anything, you can book a one-on-one. You can message me. There's payment plans for everything. I'm an open book about literally any and everything that I share. Check out the link in the bio. You can join the Discord too. That's available.